On behalf of the African Space Leadership Institute, I welcome everyone to the graduation ceremony of the first cohort of the Space Policy course. It's so exciting to see everybody here. Thanks so much, Dr. Goswami, Professor Baki, and my bosses, Dr. Munsami, Dr. Abiodun, participants here. It's so nice. It's really a pleasure and an exciting thing. This course commenced 6th of April and lectures ended on 26th May. That was about 2 months. And during this period, we had well over 32 hours of lectures, averagely 2 hours per day, and in some cases about 3 hours. Thanks so much to like Dr. Goswami's class, where we had a simulation in one of the lectures, which it was so interesting. We're really glad to have that. And all this was spread over 8 weeks. And we had an international faculty, 11 in all. We also had the simulation exercise, we had group assignments, and of course an individual assignment to crown up the whole process. Dr. Goswami's assignment kind of put a crown on the whole process. So I really want to commend all the participants for staying up to the end. I know it was not easy. I know it was challenging combining this with their own day-to-day work, but I really appreciate everybody. As you may have heard us say in different platforms, the African Space Leadership Institute was established last year and with a mission to develop Africa's capabilities in space policy, strategy, law, governance, and leadership. And we do this through the different training courses which we have in place, webinars, roundtables, talks, and public lectures. For this year, we actually plan to have 3 courses. We've just finished the space policy course, which was to run in April and May. In August, we are starting the space law and governance course that will run August and September. And then we plan to have a course focused on the African space policy and strategy in November. The space policy course, which we have just concluded, is aimed at equipping African professionals. And the good thing is that we also have people from outside Africa. That was really pleasing also. So we want to equip people with information, knowledge, and skills to enable them make the best decisions, policies, strategies, and programs for their organizations, for their countries, taking cognizance of the limited available resources, and of course, of the geopolitical environment. The objectives of this course included to appreciate the importance of space policy and to learn to apply the process of space policy making, to understand the nexus between space policy and the development of space capability. And then we also wanted to learn from selected national and regional space programs. We had about 6 different case studies during the course. It was also aimed at understanding current national, regional, and international governance regimes, and of course to develop knowledge and skills for tackling emerging technological and policy challenges. Our hope is that all the participants were able to obtain these benefits from the course. And of course, this is not the end. This is just an initiation process. So whatever you may have gathered from this course, it's just to build on it. I'll use this opportunity to thank all our facilitators, including Dr. Abiodun, Professor Baki, Professor Borowitz from the US, Dr. Tari Brisbane, of course, Dr. Goswami, Dr. Munsami, Dr. Tidiane Utara from AUC, Professor Nicholas Peter from the International Space University, Dr. Narayan Prasad, who is the co-founder of the space focused think tank in India, and of course Dr. Tejmola Taiwo, also from the ISU. They took time out of their busy schedule to share from their wealth of knowledge and experience. In fact, the initial plan was to have a 90-minute lecture, but for most of the facilitators, they went as far as 2 hours, 3 hours, and we can't thank them enough. we also want to thank all our partners that contributed to the success of the program in one way or the other. Some of them are here also. Dr. Dorina Gaba, who motivated the participation of almost half of the participants. Dr. Olawale Akinwale, who handles most of the video editing for us, not just for this course, but many of the programs of ASLI. He does the video editing work. Mr. Femi Shonubi, Ms. Toyosi Olaniyo, they developed the portal for us, and they were giving us technical support from behind. And of course, to thank the volunteers. As many of you know, ASLI does not have any full-time staff. So we work using with the help of volunteers like Safira from Uganda, Sosa from Nigeria, Faith, Ibukun, and somebody is joining us in about 2 weeks, Esther from Kenya. So it's really interesting, and we are really grateful to all these people. And of course, I must also thank the ASLI board members, Dr. Val Musami and Dr. Adibade Abiodun. They set the policies and the standards for ASLI. And like we discussed earlier, it's not everybody that passed through this program that will get certificates immediately. If you don't meet the minimum requirements, which is 70% across board, you're not going to get a certificate. So all those policies, there are people in the background who set these policies, and they have been very useful. And of course, you also met them in the course of the lecture. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all the participants, especially, in our culture, we have this saying that if you cook food and nobody joins you in eating it, then you've just wasted all your energy, all your efforts. So thank you for all the participants for coming to taste of the food that kind of we put together, and I hope it was useful. Thank you, everyone, and congrats to you all, and I wish you the best in your professions and engagements. The initial plan was to play the anthems of all the 10 countries represented, but if you're going to do that and then present the participants, it's going to take a lot of time. So what I just want to do is I'll present the participants from each of the countries, and then I play their national anthems. And I hope you enjoy it, because in fact, it was a personal experience for me going through the anthems. Some of them have the lyrics on that, so it gives you the background experience of some of these countries. So I'll just do that. I'll share my screen. So first is Andre Zolo Osu from Cameroon.
De servir que ce soit leur service, pour remplir leur devoir toujours. Chère patrie, belle chérie, qui est notre seul et vrai bonheur, notre joie et notre vie, à toi l'amour et l'honneur.
And then from Eritrea, we have Helen Hill. From Ethiopia, sorry about that. From Ethiopia, Beza Tesfaye Zedi. I hope I got the pronunciation. From Kenya, we have Kesoni Joan and Adero Awo Ucheng. From Malaysia, Umar Shangeri Arudas. From Nigeria, Koforola Faleti, we had about 5 people. Faith Obafemi, Patrick Izang, Esosa Olotu, and Ibukun Ibason.
Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call, obey to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and might, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
From Romania, Georgiana Morus.
Let's
from our host country, South Africa, we have Jamion Hendricks. We had the highest delegation from Uganda, 15 in all, and I'll just call their names. First is George William Kasangaki, Usamukunda Jolly Karabaya, Nyakato Anne Mary, Edgar Mujuni, Arina Itwe, Jason Keth, please mind, I'm sorry for the pronunciations, Bonnie Omara, Maleka Samuel, Priscilla Muheki, Safira Kuba Kurungi, Brian Waibi, Robert Kirunda, Jane Bemigisha, Nyazi Titus, Ruhezi Richard, and Buka Johnson Kipirige.
Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hand. United, free, for liberty together.
From the US, we have Pritzky Craig, sorry, Pritzky Craig.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Star stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the
And the last but not the least is Matandirotia Electdom from Zimbabwe.
Simudzai mureza wedu weZimbabwe, yakazvarwa nombuto wechimurenga, neropa zhinji ramakamba sitsiviriwe, nekumandu dzose ngaikomborerwe nyika yeZimbabwe. Tarisai Zimbabwe, nyika yakashongedzwa namakomo nehowa zvinoyevedza. Mvura ngainaye, mlitaipembesa, vashandi vatuswe, ruzhinji ruguswe, ngaikomborerwe nyika yeZimbabwe. Mwari ropafadzai nyika yeZimbabwe, nyika yamadzitateguru edu dzose, kubva Zambezi kusvika Limpopo, natungamiri vave nenduramo, ngaikomborerwe nyika yeZimbabwe, ngaikomborerwe nyika yeZimbabwe.
So these are our 30 participants from the 10 10 different countries. And I want to say a big thank you to Faith Obafemi. She sourced for all the anthems and cued them in this manner. Thank you, Faith, I hope you can hear me. All right, thank you. So as you, in a typical graduation ceremony, you usually get to listen to commencement speeches or addresses. So this is slightly different. Instead of having just one person come and give a whole commencement lecture, we have some of our experts and facilitators go speak with us kind of as the commencement address. So I'll just call them, they're already here, and I hope we pick a few things from them as we go on in our career and profession. So I already shared the program before, so I'll just start with Dr. Adigun Adeabiodun.
Good afternoon to all you participants and directors and guests of ASLE. This is a very unique occasion. My statement this morning, I'm speaking from New Jersey in the US, and my statement this morning, we focus on the assignments I gave the participants on May 11. And at that time, we're looking at space policy and all issues related to that effect, such as the justification of going into space, and how when you talk about how to develop the program and the policy, the type of collaboration you want to focus on, as well as what are the other critical issues, such as getting funding and looking forward to the future, the lessons you've learned before, and so on and so forth. I'm going to touch on some of this within the time allowed. But when we talk about justification, let me start by saying that many of you, I noted, gave several what I call justifiable justifications for embarking on your nation's space program. This include inter alia scientific advancement, the acceleration of economic development, the use of space capabilities to meet the multivarious needs of your respective countries, and to improve the well-being of your people and international collaboration. Others saw the need to stem the importation of goods and services from abroad and to begin investing in building local industries and factories so that we can produce similar goods and establish organizations that can also undertake similar services in order to reduce the outflow of our nation's wealth and also guarantee our independence. Now, these are very laudable, and I'm very happy to see what all of you have said about that. That notwithstanding, there are some of you also provided what I call unjustifiable justifications for embarking on your national space programs. In this category, you look at individuals who believe that they need to start by offering commercial opportunities for their neighbors who have no space access. And my question is, charity begins at home. Have you really used your asset to meet your own needs first and see and experiment with it and see that you can actually and adequately meet the needs of your neighbors? There were others also who saw political power, national pride, geopolitical standing, what all of this confer on their country and the ability of their country to compete in the global technology field, as well as in the space arena or in the space race. And my question is, which space race are you talking about? In Africa, I only know of one. That is when we are looking at who is going to launch the first Pan-African communication satellite or the first communication satellite in Africa. And my question is, who won that race and at what price? And when we look at having a race in space, the space race began on October 4, 1957, and it ended in 1989 at the fall of the Berlin Wall. That period is known as space race. Thereafter, we got into space collaboration or engagement on space enterprise through collaboration, as exemplified by COSPA-SASAT, International Space Station, and so on and so forth. Now, having done that, then you want to go into space, you want to have some programs, you want to have a policy. How do you go about this? We discussed a number of these during the course, but let me repeat that all we're trying to do is more or less follow the encouragement or what I call the admonition of Socrates, who told us that man must rise above the surface of the earth and beyond, for only thus will he understand the world in which he lives. That is what we are all doing. We want to understand the world in which we live better. But the question is, how do we get there? What are the steps we need to take? Because of the financial and human resources needed to engage in any space activity today, there's what we call the engagement of our people on space, on what I call awareness. What do we mean by awareness? Awareness is a word, but has been elaborated in many ways and explained in many ways. According to Abraham Lincoln in 1858, July, he said, in this age in America, public sentiment is everything. With it, nothing can fail. Against it, nothing can succeed. Now, both Ethiopia and Kenya, they are doing very well. They are doing a lot of awareness programs. South Africa did it also on the YEAST program. That is the Year of Space Science and Technology in 1998, to bring the South Africans to understand the role of S&T in their development. For me, the Indians did it best. They borrowed in 1974 a communication satellite from the US and used it to educate their own people on everyday living. As a result of which, they eventually established what I call village centers or village resource centers. What do these centers do? The centers are connected to knowledge and expert centers around in the country, such as agricultural universities, in order to develop skills like and they are linked to hospitals and to reputable NGOs. They offer training programs and in agriculture, horticulture, fisheries to the everyday Indian. They address water resources issues, telehealth, teleeducation, and weather. And that has been extraordinarily helpful. The Indians also went further with their policy when they said in 1958, it is only through the scientific approach and method that the use of scientific knowledge that reasonable material and cultural amenities and services can be provided for every member of the community. And what does that mean? So they allowed their scientists to participate in the politics, to the extent that when you talk about how space started in India, it was through the India's COSPA program, which is an international research program. And the question is, are we doing the same? And what do we mean by policy? A policy is simply a statement on any issue or an articulation of a desired goal, including a delineation of the means or strategies for achieving such a goal. The policy statement indicates the objectives and the means to accomplish that objective. But what is very critical about a policy is that it has to be followed through what I call resolute commitment by the leaders of the country. Without such a resolute decision or a resolute commitment, the country is not going anywhere. Okay. Furthermore, what should be the elements of a policy? And how do you appoint or select the knowledgeable people that are going to spread the policy to the world, to the country, so that they can follow through in developing a document and with the appropriate criteria? What are the programs to be addressed and accomplished? And what are the results anticipated and within which time framework? At our initial stage in Africa, my hope is that whatever policy each country comes forward with, that policy should provide activities that are practical, that are realistic, and that are achievable. And also, who is going to host the program or the institution, the national institution? Should it be a ministry, or should it be under the leadership of the president or prime minister? Definitely, because space addresses so many issues, putting it in a single ministry may not be the right way to go. But a policy by itself is less important when you compare it with the caliber of the men and women that are charged to implement its elements. But each country must ensure that the right people are placed there to do all of this, okay? And when you look at all of this, there are many issues that need to be added to what the policy element should address. When you are looking at Africa, given our turbulent history, I humbly suggest that you should build a culture of peace through space in your space policy and programs. To continue, I say all of you address collaboration in many ways, and I was very happy to see that. But we should know that in the space age of today, when we talk about collaboration, countries that are able to help themselves, that invest in the generation of knowledge and can contribute to innovations, are often enthusiastically welcome to interact at the research and development levels with their counterparts within the spacefaring and space-capable communities of the world. Okay, today, subject to the principle of give and take, the doors of new scientific and technological cooperation remain open to a number of countries, namely Brazil, China, India, Mexico, South Africa, and South Korea. In Africa, except for South Africa, the rest of Africa is missing in what I call true global S&T collaboration. And the question is why? Because these countries have just called out, are committed to long-term investments and development programs in science and technology, okay? And they've been invited to join BRICS, to join OECD, and so on and so forth. You can check some of this out on the web and you see why. So when we talk about collaboration, therefore, we in Africa need to, give me a second. So we should know that African culture, we need to cultivate and nurture such a character if we are to be highly regarded in both regional and international collaboration circles. And when you talk about collaboration, you have to look at where the technology is going, where the science is going, and where international programs are heading. There are many of them, I don't have the opportunity at this meeting to address them. But each country should evolve its own mechanism of promoting collaboration among the public sector, private sector, the universities, and the NGO. And let each African country do the same. And learning from one another, let us have a collaborative ideas or issues that we can all buy into. If we are able to do this and we are successful, we gain the respect and recognition of the world in getting along. Now, I also ask you to look at what I call intelligent space enterprise. What are the intelligent space enterprises of the world today and in the future? And many of you address it. So I summarize what I see here, and that is, as I said earlier, resolute commitment of succeeding administration in any country. And what do I mean by resolute commitment? Thorough financial appropriations. And in the financial appropriations, let us look at the following. Today, the space enterprise has become one of the critical and fundamental foundations of industrialization, and will be much more so in the future. By its very nature, space enterprise engenders global collaboration, and in some cases, some elements of competition. While each African country would welcome collaboration and cooperation at the international level, in order to develop and enhance its own space capability, it should, however, not expect any other country to contribute to any other country to subsidize its space ambition, since by its own committed efforts, each African country stands to compete in the immediate future with these same collaborators in the international market, particularly within the area of space. And finally, I want to address the issue of dialogue. When a space organization in your country is leading, getting your money to execute all kinds of programs, this is good. But the question is, where are we going? Is everybody having an input? So who is the real authority, apart from the executing agency in charge of space? In some countries, you have what we call the National Space Council. So I'm recommending that the National Space Council should regularly convene an annual national space dialogue of all the stakeholders in the country. And all the stakeholders, all of you know them, you've identified them in your submission. Because of the manifest importance of space, experience shows that such an annual national in-house dialogue is a standard practice in many countries. It is not, I repeat, it is not a dialogue with the media. It is a dialogue among the stakeholders. The media only reports what the stakeholders are deliberating upon. And through such a forum, it should the dialogue should encourage the exchange of ideas among and between all the interested parties on short-term, mid-term, and long-term space-related issues, including the state of science and technology in the country and associated research and development efforts. Details of the nation-specific space activities should be aired and discussed and repositioned annually as appropriate. The role and contributions of most of the stakeholders, such as the universities, research institutions, the nation's security establishments, and the academic engineering and sciences, all of them are essential to attaining the goals of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abiodun. Well, I didn't bother introducing him because we've all met him and we know him, but let me just say that he's one of the founders of ASLI, and I believe that we've picked quite a lot of points from the address he's given. So I won't bother trying to summarize that so that we can save time. Next I'll call is Dr. Namrata Goswami, whom we've also met several times during the lecture. So Dr. Goswami, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much, Etim, and I really enjoyed the address that was given. One thing when I was listening to Dr. Abiodun, is that how you pronounce? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, so when I was listening to you talking about India and how India used its space program, it brought back memories because I grew up in a very remote area in India, in the mountains, and we used to use this antenna to get satellite television. And I remember that several of the programs were on education. And so growing up as in a very remote area, listening to how to do simple math, how to write good grammar, how to understand agriculture. There were many programs on agriculture and their techniques. Actually expanded me as a child. And so some of my school didn't have very good teachers because of the remoteness. And so education through direct satellite TV was an amazing contribution to my childhood. And so I'm so happy that I, who actually saw this happening, and you reflected on some of that policy. So given that, first of all, Etim and Faith, thank you for putting together those national anthems. It was very touching for me to listen to the words. Some of the words stood out to me. What I saw from the anthem was resilience, celebration, pride in African nations, and what an honor to actually listen to those anthems. So given that, and then congratulations to the first cohort of the Africa Space Leadership Institute. What an honor. First of all, to be able to interact with you all. I learned a lot, especially from the way you played the assignment that I gave you and the responses to the question on what is space policy and what should be Africa's focus in terms of priority. And 3 priorities, I was very, very delighted to see how well all of you responded to it and created the rationale for what should be the focus. So given that, and given the fact that this is a graduation ceremony, I thought what could be the best way to think about space and to think about your own careers as you move forward, utilizing this particular education. So when I think about space policy, I think about space policy from 3 levels. One is national, which was mentioned in the earlier address, which means that African nations will have to concentrate on developing their own science and technology base. They will have to think individually on space national regulation. And then finally, they will also have to think about the purpose and the impact of their space program. So why are they interested in space and how can they contribute nationally? The second important thing when you think about space policy, and we talked about this in our lectures, is regional. So at the regional level, how can each individual African nation bring their own strength to collaborate and to bring together a particular understanding of space, space capabilities, space technology? And finally, how do you use that particular regional coming together to build a future that you want to aspire for and to help in terms of the national level? So there is an interaction. And then finally, in space policy, since space is so global, international level is so critical. So in that, 2 things really will matter: your national capacity, which means education, skill set, vision, purpose, regulation; regional level collaboration and strength of coming together. And then finally, how do you negotiate at the global level, where space is not just inspirational, but there is also geopolitics, there is also competition, there is also nationalism, there are also different aspects of a space program that we looked at. And so in that particular context, I think one of the most important messaging that African countries investing in space will have to put out is a clear demarcation between your civilian, military, and commercial institutions in space. Because one of the case study that I did is China, and one of the biggest concern that countries collaborating with China have is the fusion of their civil, military, commercial capability. Because of that, collaboration has become difficult, including between 2 very critical neighbors like India and China. Because the concern is that if you collaborate in civilian space, that might end up in a militarization of space. So institutionally, it is extremely important to do that. And that's where space policy really matters. And so, as we all spoke about, India just put out a space policy that just this year, before they had space, they would put out policies, but they were never at the National Department of Space level. So this year, India recognized that importance. And so they have very clearly demarcated between civilian and military space capability, because India also has a military space investment. So that's something that African nations will have to very seriously think about. And then, as was mentioned, that South Africa plays a very critical role because of the fact that it has been thinking about and investing in space. It's a member of the BRICS, so it has a much larger voice outside of African representation. Why is it that other nations are not there? So that's something that all of you need to think about as you go forward in your career. And then finally, I'll end by saying that when you think about space, at least when I think about space and work on space, I actually utilize philosophy from space into my own life and to think about how my career is unfolding. So I think we can draw lessons from our investment and passion for space into our own lives. And what do we want to achieve? So what did space engagement, international relations, philosophy taught me? One is that the most important thing that you can draw in terms of your own life is to have a vision. So without a vision, society is lost. And so from your national anthems, I saw that vision is a very important part of almost all the words that I looked at. I wrote down actually several of the words as fast as I could. And so vision means that you want to not just utilize your job or your career for getting a salary, which is very important. You have to feed yourself and your family, but then human beings always aspire for something larger, something that creates a usefulness, a meaning. And so space is also like that. You know, space is inspirational, but space is also unknown. There's a lot of factors we don't know. We don't know so much about dark matter. So that's why a vision is really critical. Following vision is purpose. So in my life, once I had a vision of what I wanted to have my life about in terms of education, I really wanted to do research and education and teach globally from a very young age. And I kind of moved towards that goal. And thanks to the universe, I have that particular gift given to me, and I would use every opportunity in my life to utilize it. But the second is purpose. So purpose is very difficult sometimes to actually get a sense of. So as you graduate, the one thing that all of you and all of us as adults think about is that once we have a vision of how our life unfolds or how space should be, so let's connect it, the purpose will bring the plan and the policy. So once you have a purpose, you will think about, first of all, how much investment is required for individual nations, including for yourself, time. By investment, I mean time, I mean financial investment. And so that particular structure is very important. And then purpose is always followed by strategy. So the fact that we are inspired by a particular vision, pushed by a particular purpose, requires a strategy. Strategy is connecting the means to the end. So what kind of means do we require? Education, mindset, attitude is really important. How do you actually tackle your life? That's critical. What kind of impact do we want to see from our own investments? For example, using ourselves to forward this particular collaborative vision that we talk about, but also understanding that human evolution has also been infused by competition, wars, tragedy, pain. How do we actually build a more holistic picture of our existence in this world? And then finally, I'll end by saying that all of this means that we all want to feel useful. There is something useful that we want to contribute. Talk to any human being around the world, and I've traveled to countries all over the world. And so the first thing when I ask students, when I teach students, is that, why are you interested in this particular activity? Is it because you want an employment? Answer is yes. But most students, I recently had a great conversation with 250 students that had come from India to the National Space Society International Space Development Conference. And then I spoke to students from Romania and Taiwan. And almost all of them, despite the fact that they were invested in it from a STEM perspective, science, technology, settlement perspective, space policy perspective, but at the end of the day, almost all of them came to one conclusion when they were talking to me, was that they asked me, Dr. Goswami, what do you think brings meaning and usefulness to your life that you are passionate about? We see this passion. How do you have this? And we want to learn and we want to be like that. And so it's a question that deeply touched me. And I have been reflecting on that even today, because sometimes even I don't have the answer, right? And so it's okay not to have answers, but to have the drive and passion and usefulness from your careers beyond just earning a living is what is going to get us to the future in space that is going to become collaborative. So I'll end by saying, understanding of space policy involves understanding national policies, pushing for certain national policies that build capacity, skill set, like India invested early on satellite direct television that empowered a young woman growing up in a very remote area today who can use that particular memory to influence my own thinking and my skill. The second is regional level understanding. What is the strength you have at the regional level? And then finally, what is important in terms of global space impact? And for that, institutional separation nationally, civil, military, commercial regulation is very critical. And then finally, have a vision, have a purpose, have a strategy, and always think about impact. What impact do you want to live from your life in the careers and the lives you live? So I'm going to end there, and thank you for having me. It has been a real honor. And congratulations. I'm going to have a drink tonight in celebration of your graduation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Goswami. I think at this point, I want us to quickly take a photo shot, because while we still have many people online. So if we can put on our cameras briefly, so that I can just take a screenshot. Dr. Abiodun, are you there? Okay, any other person?
And Etim, you're going to share this, right? You're going to share the photo.
Yes, I will share it, yes.
Okay, okay.
There's still some people. Okay, all right. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, sorry, one more. Let me put this down here. One. Okay, are we ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Next, we have 2 more speeches, and then we hear from the participants themselves. So I will now call on Professor Paul Baki, whom we also met during the course also. Professor Baki, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, team and the board members of ALSI. I think this was a very good initiative indeed, well thought out to bring together people from diverse backgrounds, people from academia, from the NGO world, from the industry, and indeed from other areas, other spaces of work. To me, I think we have just begun to walk the talk that we want to see the aspirations of Agenda 2063 as championed by the African Union come to fruition. The togetherness that we so desire has begun with this group but in a slightly different context because we are a focused group. Space is business. Space is indeed a very huge industry. And I would like to urge the participants in this course to be good ambassadors, to be champions in their own rights, in their respective jurisdictions, so that the knowledge we have gathered or we have gained from this course is percolated through the various channels to government so that we can influence policy positively. So that I know we are all very different in terms of where we are in space technology development across the continent. Let us continue to, beyond this course, share our experiences across borders, because space matters really cut across. They don't know any boundaries. Let us continue to share these experiences, not only with the fellow participants, also with the course instructors. And I must say that the assignments that I gave out were very well attempted. I also learned something from the participants. You always don't get away empty-handed, even if you are the instructor. And that gives me the confidence that if we continue to build on this pool of expertise across the continent, over time, we are building capacity with people who are already at a certain level. We are not beginning from the scratch. In all this endeavor, let us remember that space is for social justice. Whatever we are doing with it, it all boils down to social justice. Let us identify niche areas in our respective countries that we would like to focus on. You may want to do everything, but you spread yourself out too thin. And sometimes the policy makers or decision makers may not see the difference. Let us try to work together within our own countries, even across borders, to see what we can do regionally. Let us begin to participate as policy influencers, the people who can connect with others across borders, so that we can conceive regional projects that will have impact across regions. And finally, I may be repeating things which have been said because I stepped out a little bit. Let us create an emailing address for this team and for the subsequent teams that will come after this. Because quite often when we are doing surveys, and we did one for the African Union Commission last year, you rely on the contacts that you already have. And this would be, to me, a very rich pool that will in future be reached out to spread information regarding space across the continent and beyond. Otherwise, I want to congratulate everyone who took their time out. It is not easy because most of you are working, to spare time to be lectured, while in fact you are also a CEO somewhere, or you are also one of the lecturers, also lecturing other people and giving out exams. It is not easy to go back to classroom and be conditioned for 8 weeks to follow the course to completion. Thank you very much all, and enjoy the rest of your time. Thank you very much, team, and the board members of ALSI, and God bless. In Kenya, we say asanteni, meaning thank you.
Ashanti, yeah, Ashanti. Thank you, Professor Baki. I was going to mention it at the end, but since you brought it up, maybe I just talk about it now. You know, you talked about a mechanism for sharing experience even beyond now, and so you talked about having a mailing list. So one of the things we had also planned is what we call the ASLI network, so that from among the participants, of course, it's not compulsory and it's not automatic also. So those who are willing, you're welcome to join the ASLI network. And the whole idea is to be like a platform to share knowledge, information, and experience, as Professor Baki has mentioned, to ask questions and get solutions or suggestions. And I mean, since we are trying to develop our careers, trying to develop our national space programs, the network is there for you to kind of get some help and, of course, grow socially and professionally. It's not just an alumni association as you have in other groups, and that's because it's not just for the alumni, it's not just for the participants. The facilitators also are welcome to join. So it's a network, and we are starting with this cohort, and we hope it will build up to be a strong network across the globe. So I think we are already in line with what Professor Baki has mentioned. And then to crown up the whole event, I'll call on Dr. Balmon Sami to give the final address.
Good afternoon, Etim, and maybe just to start off, first by congratulating all of the graduates today. I think it's well earned. It's 8 weeks of hard work, and I thought I should just maybe kind of pause on two questions that I wanted to pose, because I think what Ade put down, Paul and Namrata, kind of touch on many of the issues that I would normally speak about. And I also agree when I looked at the different national anthems, there was something that was very interesting in all of them. And the word that's kind of cries out to me is freedom. All countries are striving for freedom. And when you really look at the words that support that, it's about equality, it's about love, it's about respect. And I think that's what even when you look at it from the African Union perspective, that's what we're trying to achieve. Even Agenda 2063 is kind of pushing the point that we need to start thinking collectively as Africa for Africa, by Africa. And I think all of that is enshrined in a lot of the national anthems that we've heard today. The other aspect, and one of the things that Ade picked up on it, and Namrata as well. I'm South African, lived and born, bred in South Africa, and in fact, I'm in my 50s, mid 50s. But it was the first time I've been to India. My great grandfathers are from India, and for me that was an eye opener. And I'm picking on this because very specifically, there was a site visit that we did. And Israel is currently working on what is called Chandrayaan-3 mission, which is now going to go and land on the moon. And I think they're launching that at the end of the year. Kind of walked into the clean room and something struck me. There was a ring where the electronics was being kind of connected up on the inside of the ring. And inside of the ring was the engineers working on the circuitry. And the engineers themselves were young graduates with no shoes, standing on a mat, connecting the circuitry. And it reminded me of what we have in Africa. Sometimes we think everything has to be shiny, packaged nicely, marketed properly. And you have to understand there's a methodology, a philosophy in terms of nothing is impossible. Okay. And that's what we're up against. And I said I wanted to focus on two questions. Why is it important in terms of what we've done? And what are your next steps, mostly from a personal anecdote? Why is it important? So you've just gone through 8 weeks of grounding, and information was poured into you in terms of policy, strategy, the technical aspects of space. And that is a very important knowledge base that you carry moving forward in terms of where you're heading. But personally for us, in terms of why we started the African Space Leadership Institute, and I think the context in all of these questions is very important. And the context was, why is development in Africa so slow compared to elsewhere in the world? Why? And I think one of the key aspects is leadership. And that's why we have the African Space Leadership Institute. And when you look at leadership in terms of how you lead the institutions, there's two ways of thinking about issues, about problems, about why you're doing it. The one is what I call the more experiential. So a lot of what you think and put down in paper is based on your past experience. And so very often when you're hit with a problem, your normal tendency is to jump and look at your past experience and try to emulate a solution that reflects what you've experienced before. But actually that is not always adequate. The other way of thinking from a leadership point of view is the more strategic, the more analytical. And that's what we've been trying to teach you in this particular course, because that's what policy is about. It's about thinking deeply and asking the question, why? Why do we need a space program? It's not about a Me Too strategy because country X is doing it. We're also going to be doing it. You have to go down and understand why you need a space program. And that's what a policy tries to do. This is a course on policy and law. Okay, so policy is understanding why. Why is it important? Before you even embark on a space program. I've had the opportunity of even visiting, I think about 10 years ago, I used to work in the Ministry of Science and Technology, and the minister asked me to visit one of the African countries who was launching this mega space institute. And one of the questions I asked, do you have a policy and strategy? No, that will come next. Is that? No, you start off with policy first before you even set up an agency. So we have to make sure that the orientation is correct in terms of processing. So understanding why is very critical. With this particular knowledge that you've gained through this course and through the experts that you've intersected with, there's a saying by Nelson Mandela that says that knowledge is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Repeat it again. Knowledge is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. And changing the world also means changing our circumstances. And that's very key because it comes back to the leadership aspects. And there's many different traits of leadership and you can look them up, but I want to reflect from my own personal point of view. You know, very often when you get into an environment, into a work environment, as an example, we see leadership, and leadership is a mindset. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of orientating and understanding the why, the impact. So even at an institutional level, you know, we're all driven by key performance indicators. And you look at it from a space sector point of view, key performance indicators are not output driven. And I've seen this time and time and again in Africa. The output that we are chasing after is satellites. How many satellites do we have? I think even earlier today, I saw kind of an article that says, these are the countries and this is how many satellites they've managed to launch over the years. It does not tell you anything about what those satellites did, what was the impact of those satellites. And that's what we have to focus on, is outcome-based indicators. What is the impact at the national, regional, or continental level? And that's what we are seeking is impact. And as leaders, leaders, we have a responsibility in terms of how we transform and shape the ecosystem that we are asked to take responsibility for. And transformation can take very different forms. One is you can either imitate what others have done, and I don't encourage you to do that because your unique branding comes from thinking very differently and operating very differently. But if you do go down that road, and I've seen this happening in many African countries where they send out engineers, have a satellite built and launch. But the key question is, what have you internalized from all of that? If you've got that experience, have you internalized anything that you can move forward with? Because I think the third aspect in terms of transformation is innovation. If you can internalize knowledge, you are then able to innovate. And I think this kind of transformation is very important. And I am also guarded against this transformational aspects. There's also the transactional where countries go and buy satellites and then they claim to be spacefaring countries. So the leadership in terms of understanding impact and how you respond to what the priorities of your country or the region is very critical. And just maybe a closing remark from my side, and just share my own experience. When I look back at my own career and how it moved, one of the things that I can share with you quite easily is that my work focus has never been what my job description looked like. In fact, it's been outside the job description. And you have to be mindful that people are stuck with job descriptions. You're brought into an organization employed to do A, B, and C, and you will only do A, B, and C. Actually, that's the wrong mentality. You have to start thinking of doing A, B, and C plus whatever else it takes to transform your local landscape. And one of my own personal orientation is I've always seen myself as a public servant. I've worked in government for over 25 years, and I've always viewed myself as a public servant, including those around me. I've always pushed them to say, if you don't make a decision, and if you don't act, there are thousands, tens of thousands, if not millions, that are being held back because you have not made a decision. You have not taken an action. So in all of what you are doing in terms of you've come in to assimilate some knowledge and you're going to go put that back in the ecosystem, understand the impact that that's going to be making. And just my last thought, leadership is not about how many followers you have. Leadership is about how many other leaders you create along your own career path. And I think this was essentially why we started the African Space Leadership Institute. It's about capacitating, getting people to think more than just doing, understanding the impact, the outcomes that we want to achieve, understanding the policy framing that we need to consider before we even embark on space programs or any initiative for that matter. So I thought it relate more to what you should be doing and how you should be thinking as leaders going forward, and also hoping to see a lot of you in the future in terms of the impact that you're going to be making, because I think you're going to be the ambassadors. And I'm really excited to be part of this inaugural graduation of ASLI. So I just want to congratulate you and wish you everything of the best going forward. Thank you, ASLI.
Thank you, Dr. Munsami. And well, the program is being recorded, so I really encourage us to watch this recording again so that the insights and the experiences being shared, we can go over them again and think through them and think of how we can actually apply them in our assignments going forward. Just before we go, the last item on the agenda is to hear from some of the participants themselves. So I'll just call just a few of them, starting with Beza Tesfaye from Ethiopia. Beza?
Hi, thank you, Etem. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the inspiring commencement speech and sharing your valuable advice here again. But first and foremost, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude when I think about learning and teaching, there are two things that I care most about. And the first is accessibility, and the second one is the context. So actually, in this case, gave us a learning opportunity to learn from the best space experts who continually inspires us in every day with their excellence and knowledge. I can say here again, Professor Ade, Professor Baki, Dr. Val, and Dr. Namarata, and the rest of the experts who shared their valuable lessons with us. And the second thing that I truly appreciate was the contextuality of these lessons, because for those of us who have a lot of exposure to the outside world, I mean, from the developed world, that we all know, we miss something. There's always something that is lacking, which is a context that is relevant to Africa and to our reality. So the course here at Asli gave us that opportunity to go and dive deep into the policies and other space regulatory issues that directly concerned with us. And I think this is also shared among the other developing countries, and especially with exercises and assignment given to us. It was truly an eye-opener in analyzing our core matters that we really wanted to discuss in the first place. So I think two of these issues were the very thing that impressed me and helped me to appreciate it, what Asli is doing right now. So thank you. And seizing this opportunity, I would like to thank everyone, the experts, Etim, you, and the rest of the organizer for putting up on this and also following through until we finish this course. And I'm truly honored and proud to be among the first cohort of the space policy course to complete. And I look forward to more courses to come, and hopefully I will be able to attend many of them. So I urge you to keep doing and to bring relevant topics and people to this course and continue enabling us and then creating more capacity within Africa, so that we could, in the future, we will be able to make the right policies and decisions to bring our Africa to the space arena. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Beza. It was great having you. And then I call on Umar Shangiri from Malaysia.
Thank you, Etim. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed faculty members, fellow graduates, and distinguished guests, a warm welcome. Today is a momentous occasion as we gather here virtually to celebrate our graduation from the African Space Leadership Institution, ASLI, and the successful completion of our certificate program in space policy. I stand virtually before you with a deep sense of pride and honor, adorning my Malaysian national dress, known as Baju Kurung, representing a group of diverse individuals from all over the globe who have dedicated their time and efforts to the pursuit of knowledge and expertise in this fascinating field. First and foremost, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the ASLI faculty and staff for their unwavering support and guidance throughout our academic journey. Their expertise and dedication have been instrumental in shaping our understanding of space policy and fostering our growth as space policy professionals. I would also like to extend our thanks to the mentors and industry experts who have generously shared their experiences and insights with us, especially the four of us that we have just heard, broadening our perspectives and inspiring us to reach for the stars. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my husband, my number one cheerleader, who have been understanding in providing me the right environment for me to have continuous learning with Asli, taking up cooking and house chores. Thank you, babe. And my parents, Papa and Amma, who always come forward to support my dreams in every possible resource for a comfortable learning path in my life. Both Divine Graces, Guruji and Guruji Mada, for guiding lights in my life. And dear God, the universe, for continuously blessing me with miracles in all forms. Our time at Asli has been nothing short of transformative. We have dwelled deep into the complexities of space policy, exploring the interplay between science, technology, diplomacy, and international relations. We have studied the legal frameworks of governing space activities, examined the ethical implications of space exploration, grappled with the challenges of ensuring sustainable and inclusive space policies. Our knowledge base has expanded, and our critical thinking skills have been honed, equipping us to make meaningful contributions in this rapidly evolving field. Space policy is not just about rockets and satellites. It is harnessing the power of space for the betterment of humanity. It is all about leveraging space technologies to address global challenges such as climate challenge, disaster management, sustainable development, and sustainable space, especially in space debris management. As graduates of ASLI, we have a unique responsibility to be ambassadors of space policy in advocating its importance and relevance in shaping the future of our world. In conclusion, as we are here virtually on the threshold of our future, let us embrace our roles as space policy leaders and advocates. Let us be the driving force behind the innovative space policies that unlock the world's, especially on developing nations' potential, and contribute to the betterment of humanity as a whole. With the knowledge and skills we have acquired as ASLI, we are well equipped to embark this exciting journey. Together, let us strive to make space policy a catalyst for progress and a beacon of hope for a brighter tomorrow. Thank you and congratulations to the ASLI class of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Mal. That was great. Thank you. It was great having you. I know it was not easy for you because most times the classes were midnight or close to midnight for you, but you still attended them. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was great having you.
Thank you for always guiding me through and replying to my WhatsApps. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And then next I'll call on Samuel Maleka. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tim. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay. Our teachers, all the doctors in your respective capacities, and fellow graduates, good evening. Okay, I do not know what time it is elsewhere in the world, but at least where I am, it's coming to 5 p.m. Pretoria time. I'm very excited to be a part of the first graduation ceremony of and I feel very soothed in my heart. Would like to thank you, all our teachers and everyone who has committed time to equip us. We are surely equipped, and we are ready to become space leaders at national level. I'd like to thank particularly the Aeronautics Bureau in Uganda for having sponsored us to come and do this course. We are very delighted, and we have come back more equipped. It so happens that this course has been done at a time where Uganda is trying to develop its own national space program. And there is actually work that is going on around developing the national space policy. And so we feel very equipped to comfortably continue with the assignment. Thank you very much, Bureau. And I think that is on the call. Thank you very much. I got just 2 remarks. We'll go to the graduates of this class. Like to be best leaders because you have been equipped. We have been taught by some of the best talent in this field of space and around different issues of politics, like you saw, space physics, and all the other areas like you saw. So I'd like to call upon you to really be good ambassadors of space in your countries, your respective countries, and also to continue in the spirit of networking, because this is the only way we can be able to actually build a strong foundation and for building awareness about space at national level. And then the second remark was to the team and your Dr. Paul Bucky mentioned something about creating a platform that can enable us to collaborate, creating some sort of mailing list. I think that's a very good initiative as far as encouraging collaboration and also ensure that you do not I would like to ask the management. I'm sure you
I'm not sure. I don't seem to hear Samuel anymore.
sorry,
Okay.
Can you hear me?
So, yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I was making the last remark. Sorry about that. There was a network problem.
Yes, sorry.
So my request to the management would be of ASLI would be that just like Dr. Goswami said, that strategy links means to an end, and she mentioned something about being one of the key strategies in this context. So in that light, I would like to request the ASLI management to identify some education programs, say, for instance, Master of Studies in space-related issues and those kinds that are out there, or that and any form of funding opportunities that come along with it. I believe that this would be a very good strategy as far as equipping or continuing the equipage of all the graduates that have been part of this journey in making them become more adept at space and become better space leaders. So I'd like to request you that if you can identify some of these education programs and the available funding opportunities in terms of scholarships or could be full board or partial. I think this would be a very good strategy to continue the work that has been already started by ASLI. And then the other question would be, or the request would be that you actually support each of us, now that we are national space leaders, to continue spreading the word about space in our different capacities. Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to congratulate everyone once again, all the fellow graduates from all the different countries, for coming to the end of this course successfully. And I wish you a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samuel. It's great hearing from you. Thanks so much. You were very active in the entire program. You used to ask quite a lot of questions, and we really appreciate that. Just to respond to some of the things you've mentioned, we actually have quite a lot in mind to do, and you will see them unfolding in the next weeks or months. Like I mentioned on the WhatsApp group, we are working on the website. So once the website is ready, you'll be able to see a lot more of the programs that we have in mind. We are starting with the educational part, but the other aspects of doing research and doing the functions of a think tank will begin to unfold as we go on. Right now, if you check the website, you see some courses that are already listed. Those are some of the courses already, we've designed them, and the ones that are, others will actually come in as we go on. So that connects to the ASLI network, because we want you to be part of the process. Like I discussed with my team members, we are following what we call a co-creation process. We want to create the system together. And like the facilitators also mentioned, they've mentioned that they are very much available to assist. So maybe on a personal level or with national assignments, they are very much available. Their emails are there. Dr. Goswami, Dr. Mosami, everyone, Professor Baki. And if there's anyone that you're not able to reach directly, of course, you can reach out to me, and then I can get in touch with them. Thank you very much. And then the last but not the least is Dr. Elect Dom Matandirotia from Zimbabwe.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, very well.
Okay, thank you. Let me first of all start by appreciating all our mentors who took us through the course. I always feel that it's not lecturing, but it's mentorship. So I feel that all the facilitators were mentoring us, because we are a young generation, but we do have a responsibility as space ambassadors in our nation at different capacities. So we really appreciate your mentorship throughout the 8 weeks. And also let me express gratitude to the technical team. I think from day one, it was well organized, and they made it look like the course was easy, even though it was not. For me particularly, because I think the only 2 courses that I was comfortable with throughout were orbital mechanics and space physics, because that's my domain. The rest, yeah, it was tough. So I'd really want to appreciate the way we were nurtured through each and every technical presentation that was done. It was made, it looked easier, but then when it came now to putting down the assignments, that's when you'll be like, am I really doing it the right way? But I appreciate also the feedback. So to me, this was one of those exciting journeys that I embarked on, because I told myself after graduating, I'm not doing schooling anymore. So concentrating for an hour, for 2 hours was very, very difficult, but I tried my best. So the one thing that I also appreciate is actually the growth, that it might seem like 8 weeks, but because of the nature of the information and the sources that were shared, it doesn't feel like 8 weeks. We feel like we actually do have long time, though we will keep reading and researching. So to me, this was good foundation. Why I say so is nations are starting space programs. I think some people get in the situation that I got in, whereby somewhere in the database, they know you did space science, but no one knows exactly what you did. And then you're just put in a forum. Now, in this forum, you need to understand the technical part, you need to understand the political part, as well as the policy part. And I think for me, this actually helped me a lot. And during these 8 weeks, I actually had 2 assignments. And I feel like my presentation was actually better after listening to the mentors. I presented my arguments better. I wrote better presentations for my executive, because now I understood the differences between different terms that I used to use interchangeably. So to me, I really feel that this was the beginning of something different in my career, because I think sometimes we feel like we'll be technical forever, and then find yourself in management, and you then have to deal with all sorts or all angles. So thank you so much. And we do appreciate the feedback. I mean, we appreciate that our mentors were very busy, but they tried, and the question and answer section was always live. Sometimes I'll feel sorry for them because we really asked a lot of questions. Okay, others asked, not me. But it was so engaging. I really enjoyed this. So congratulations to everybody who really tried to balance work, family, and this course. It was not an easy one, but I really feel empowered. And thank you so much, everybody. Our teammates, I know it was hard to find each other, but eventually we did it. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Elecdom. You also remind me of when my background is also engineering, your science, mine is engineering. And then when I was sent to African Union to support the work of the Space Working Group to develop the space policy and strategy. And that's also when I got to know that space policy itself is a field on its own. But learning under the tutelage of Dr. Musami, in fact, I had the opportunity of going to South Africa later on, I think the following year, and I spent 3 whole months with him. So it really gave me a good perspective about space policy. So I really feel you, but I'm happy that you're able to pull through, and I'm wishing you the best as you support this Zimbabwe space program. So we've actually come to the end of this ceremony. Thank you everyone for your participation. Thank you to all our facilitators for making time out to celebrate with us. And maybe I'll just conclude by saying I will encourage us all to participate in the follow-up course, which will be announced. Actually, if you go to the website, it's actually, you can actually register immediately, but I'll still do a public announcement later. That's on space law and governance. And of course, you cannot do space policy outside the framework of the international legal regime. So we actually want to explore the international legal regime and then come down to the continental and to the national. And the good thing about this course is that it's not just your typical space law as you have in some institutions. We're also going to look at even governance at the organizational level. You know, Dr. Musami kind of gave us an insight on how to structure an organization through unpacking your policy and strategy. So we're going to look at that and look at governance of governance of space institutions, and that how you use that to meet your national and international obligations. So the details are already on the ASLI website, but I will also communicate that on our group platform. I've spoken about the ASLI network earlier. I will still talk about that again later. So once again, thank you everyone, and I wish you the very best in all your endeavors. Thank you, and bye for now.